If you like watching action movies, this movie is just such a treat. It's kind of an homage to like the 80s, 90s, like super bloody
Yeah.
Rambo slash Die Hard, like anything and everything goes. Tom Hardy, obviously, he's such an amazing actor, and it was such a blessing really to work alongside him because he kind of just he pulls you into your world. And a funny story is like my very first shot, he could see I was nervous and I'm kind of like fumbling with my fingers, and he's
Yeah.
like, are you nervous? And I was like, he could tell I was, and I was like, yes. And
Yeah.
he was like, well, you should be because everybody's judging you. It's just
That must have made you.
uh, it made me laugh. And then I
Right.
was just like, and he kind of just started talking to me, and he's like, you literally, fight for real in front
Right.
of millions of people. This is just pretend. And he kind of like brought it down, brought the whole situation down a level, and kind of, put everything into perspective. And he's just like really like made me feel comfortable on set. And Tom's a huge jujitsu practitioner, so we had a lot of time to train, roll, and kind of get to know one another as far as like body types, physicality, like
Yeah.
styles in fighting. And so I think that kind of like lended itself into the fight scene for sure.
Yeah, and I'm not going to give it away because I don't want to, no spoilers here. But the fight scene, the big fight scene that you all have, obviously we're on screens at different times, but the fight scene looks so great. It looks so real. It doesn't look cheesy. It doesn't look fake. I've got to imagine in ways that's even more challenging because you punch someone, but to make a choreographed scene look real has got to be really difficult. You guys knocked it out of the park, I thought, though, Michelle.
Thank you. Yeah, honestly, it is challenging because like when you train like real time, did you
Yep.
lose me? Did you lose
No,
me?
I got you. Yep. No, I
Okay,
got you.
cool. When you train real time, a lot of times the hits that sink in and hurt your opponent, it doesn't portray on camera.
Right.
And sometimes the stuff that doesn't even like hurt your opponent looks really good on camera. And so just trying to figure out like what sells and what doesn't was really tricky. But like I said, having the chance to roll with Tom and Jakey, his stunt double, pretty much on a daily basis really helped us feel comfortable and trust one another so that we could kind of, connect without connecting. And that's a whole art in itself too, right? Like making the shot like land but
Yeah.
not really land, so you can do it 10 times and not, you know, injure your
Right.
friend
Right.
in the process. That's what I loved. I love, like you said, I love the realness of it. It's so hard to capture real fights
Yeah.
on screen to make it look like a real fight. And Gareth Evans is just, he's like a chef's kiss when it
Yeah.
comes to that because he has a huge appreciation for martial arts and film.
Yeah, and I like anyone who has watched obviously a lot of action stuff, and a lot of times it doesn't look real in other projects, and you're like, it really stands out. So it's really cool when it does look like, incredibly authentic.
It
How
was real. I mean,
Yeah.
for sure, there were some points where it was
Were you
like,
actually hitting at points?
they were like, hey, it's not landing. And then Jakey's like, all right, just give it to me. And I'm like, you sure? And so like, I was laying some of those in for him. And then, he got me back, slamming me into
Right.
the wall. And so it was one of those things like I could take it. Like I did that in training for free for, a
Right.
decade. Like this ain't gonna hurt me. Like let's just
Right.
get it done.
Right. Right. Well, that makes sense. There you go. That's why it looks so real because it was real. How I'm not a movie star, so how long does it take to train to do the scene, and then how long does it actually take, say, the big fight scene to get that all filmed?
Yeah, well, it happened way before we even started filming. Gareth Evans and the stunt team, Jude Poyer and all of his guys, they came together and put together a fight previs before the script was even put together. They kind of wrote the script around the fight scenes, which was amazing. So they had, the club scene put together, and then that last finale fight put together, and then kind of like put all the magic in between together to make all that happen. And then when I flew in, we probably rehearsed for a good, I would say 2 to 3 weeks for each of the
Wow.
fight scenes. Just sprinkling in stuff here and there and kind of having to, because what you see on screen is probably a tenth of what we put together.
Right.
Yeah. So, because, I mean, if it was up to Gareth, we would have a 20-minute fight scene. And I'm down for that for sure.
Right. I would have been down to watch. So man, maybe the extended release version or something.
Yeah. So it was a blast to do. And honestly, I was a little nervous that my character would kind of get lost in translation because like, I didn't have very many lines.
Yeah.
And but dude, like she has a very strong presence in the movie, and I'm super proud of my work.
I think as you should be. Tom, he's obviously, been in a bunch of huge movies and we've seen him do really athletic stuff on screen. I mean, he looked great and I understand he obviously has a double. How was Tom as the fighter? Well, does he actually have some ability there?
Oh yeah, 100%. Tom's a martial artist,
Yeah.
and I think that's why the MMA movie that he did is like when it comes to MMA movies, it's hard. It's hard to kind of anchor that down and portray what it is to be an MMA fighter. But Tom did such an amazing job because he lives the life of a martial artist. He's
Yeah.
like 100% dedicated, and like I said, his style is more. He is kind of like if I'm putting it, if I were to like analyze him as an MMA fighter, I
Yeah.
would say he's more of kind of like a bite down on your mouthpiece and grind it out type
Ooh.
fighter. He kind of likes to do like the dirty grappling moves where he's like digging his knuckles in you, like
Okay.
smothering you, smash, smash. That's his like that that's his grappling style.
Wow.
And so it was lots of fun to get to know him as a martial artist.
Wow. It sounds like he could have been an MMA fighter if he had chosen to go in that direction. Obviously, does it, sort of recreationally.
Yeah, no, I think what the beautiful thing about jujitsu is it's a martial art that you can do in any chapter of your life,
Yeah.
and depending on what how you want to take it, you can ramp it up and ramp it down, and it's still something that adds value to you know to your health and to your
Yeah.
mental stability.
Absolutely. Okay, now that we've seen you in Havoc, do we see you in other projects? Is this something that you would like to continue doing, Michelle?
Oh my gosh, it's a dream come true. Honestly, before I started fighting, I grew up watching Mortal Kombat and
Yeah.
playing Street Fighter and Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, like you name it. That's what we did. We grew up in the era of John Claude Van Damme and Terminator and all of those movies, best of the best. So it really is a dream come true. I've had the opportunity to be on Cleaning Lady. Keith Jardine is getting into
Yeah.
directing, and so he pulled me into act in one of his movies. Donald Cerrone's getting into acting, and he's putting together some mini series of his own, of a really
Wow.
cool Western story that he pulled me in for. So
Nice.
I'm doing that, going on auditions. I hear that they're putting together a cast for Street Fighter, so you gotta put me up in there, put me up in the mix for that. I'll fight for it. I'll fight for the role.